Gary Farmer, Amanda, Jonathan Wacks, Yes, Sweetie,
Good to see you, man.
I think we need one more chair, maybe. Are we good? Are we good? You're gonna go there? Okay.
I'll be dancing. I'll be dancing. Very entertaining.
Look how beautiful these guys are. 30 years later. You're looking at, we are the new Hollywood. And natives in charge of their narrative, that's for sure. With the help of our allies, always.
David Seals.
Yeah, so David Seals, I'd like to acknowledge, his family is here. Alice Johnson, his daughter and his son. Seals, where are you?
Is Sky here? Is Sky here?
Sky's not here.
Okay.
No.
That's his son, right?
Yeah, that's his son. Yeah.
He wrote Pow Wow Highway, and he wrote Pow Wow Highway, and he wrote a sequel to it, Sweetgrass, right? Sweet Medicine. And Renee, who was married to him at the time,
Handren,
said just to remind everybody who liked this film that David's books are available for purchase in the world. So think about that. Yeah, David Seals, Pow Wow Highway.
I just want to add that there are three people who were absolutely key to this film being realized, and all three of them have passed. David Seals, John Trudeau, and George Harrison. So just, if we can take a minute just to remember.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
did you mention John Trudeau?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's the second
one. You know, when we shot this film, it was 1987 in the fall. Yeah, it was 87. It didn't come out to 89. I just left Guys and Dolls, messing around with all the chorus girls. I was having a wonderful time. And I got whisked off to Lame Deer, Montana, where no one had ever been before. In fact, nobody from the crew had ever been to Lame Deer, Montana, and I certainly had never been there. And I was given the education of my life. It was a master's degree, living among the Northern Cheyenne people, the Noto Mesa. I still go there regularly and play music for them at the Boys and Girls Club, and I stay at the old age home because it's really cheap. But I love Noto Mesa. It's become a part of who I am, and of course I credit all of it as to, you saw his name there on the credits, Jimmy Red Cloud. I mean, he was the real Filbert Bono, and he taught me so much as a human being and about the Northern Cheyenne people. So I'll always be grateful, and he's gone too. The late Jimmy Red Cloud. He was a special person.
So Jonathan, how did, I'm just going to start, would you like to say something, Wyss? You're grabbing the mic.
Do you have a
You're
question?
No, I just,
Oh my God, it's been 30 years. Can you believe it? Were all of you born at that point in time? I have my doubts. Yeah, it's been 30 years. It was my very first feature film. And I don't know whether this guy had anything to do with it or not, but I did get cast in it. And then I immediately went to acting classes there afterwards.
You took real good advantage of that opportunity, man.
Yeah.
You turned that into a really nice story.
Yeah, sure.
Well, you know, I was trying to steal it. You know,
You
I was
did.
trying to steal it,
Yeah.
but I mean, you guys just had me.
Yeah.
You know.
Thank God we got all that screen time.
Say hello to your man.
Come on, Brenda.
I just can't believe it's been 30 years, and I've only seen the movie twice until tonight,
Wow.
and I hadn't seen it in many, many years, and it was like seeing it for the first time, and it just reminded me of how beautiful the movie is, and I feel like I won the lottery getting to play Rabbit in this beautiful film. And I cannot believe it was 30 years ago. And watching it tonight and sitting with all you guys, it feels like yesterday.
Well, it was 32 years ago, really.
Dang it, Gary! Stop it.
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, well, 87.
It was released 30 years ago.
yeah.
It was
But
released
that-
30 years ago.
Right, it was released,
30
yeah,
years ago,
yeah, yeah,
But we were all doing it, like
Yeah.
filming it, 87.
yeah.
You know, we should mention Toy Michi, remember him?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think both Toyomichi Kurita, who was the cinematographer, and Jim Stewart, who was the editor, you know, for me personally, I mean, this was actually my first feature film. I didn't tell anybody that. I didn't want to get busted. So I was able to pretend along with the rest of you.
For 30
Yeah,
years.
exactly. You thought I was like some major Hollywood director, but it was my first
But
film.
you did produce Repo Man, though, right?
I did. And my partner, Peter McCarthy.
Is he here?
He's right there.
Wow,
Peter.
wow, Peter.
He produced Repo Man, we produced it together. Yeah.
Nice.
But, so that gave me, I guess, a little bit of street cred. But in any case, the film, how it came to me, actually,
Yeah,
was
that's
the two writers, Gene Stallworth and Janet Heaney, and Janet Heaney has passed as well.
That's right.
Quite a while ago, very young, she was in her 20s. They had worked with David Seals and Carl Cranes, who was also working on the project, to develop the script. And I guess because of Repo Man, they somehow thought that I knew how to do films that mainstream Hollywood didn't want to do. So through a woman named Susan Ingleby from Coppola, she was working for Coppola, she sent it to me and said, "You may be interested in this." And I read it and I said, "Yeah, it's really cool. It's really something that I could get involved with." And it took forever. I mean, I think it took almost 2 years from the time that I saw the script and we worked on the development of the script. But one of the things we did actually, and Peter will back me up here, is I adopted the same philosophy on Pow Wow as I did on Repo Man, which was, even though we didn't have a nickel, we said we were making the movie. So we started casting the movie, and we set up an office, and for all intents and purposes, we were making the movie. And somehow, for those of you who are filmmakers in the audience, that's the strategy, man. You got to put out the vibe and the energy that you're actually making the movie,
Yes.
and then people start believing it,
Yeah.
and then they give you the money to make the movie.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
So
how we
that's
do
what we
it.
did. So for a year and a half, I met with John Trudell on a regular basis to start understanding where he was coming from, because in many ways, A's character, Buddy Redbow, was based on John Trudell.
Yeah.
You know, hardcore, tough, smart, political guy, came out of the American Indian movement in the 70s, and was always frickin' angry.
Yeah, yeah.
And until he meets Philbert, of course, and Philbert is the spiritual center of the movie, and bringing these two guys together creates the possibility of both of them becoming real warriors. So that was sort of the movie that I was trying to make. And thanks to all these guys, they were able to realize that dream.
Yeah, good dream.
It
All
was
right, has
my-
anyone got any questions?
It-
Or we-
Wait, wait.
No,
It was-
we got other things to say.
Yeah,
I got
yes,
more
we
stuff
do.
to say.
We do.
Don't ask any questions.
Not yet. But it was my first feature film as well.
Wow.
Yeah. Was it yours? No. You've done a
No,
lot.
she's Richmond
She's the-
High.
Yeah, that's right. Oh my God.
She was a hit
Okay.
movie.
My bad.
Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah. Yeah, well, I want to say, Graham Greene barely got to the set in time before he had to do that scene. I mean, really, he had one of those traveled days from hell where everything went sideways. He had, his plane got canceled, whatever, bus, trains, and planes, whatever. He barely got there on time, and he did that.
Yeah.
Right? And for my money, every time I've looked at this film, I've seen this film 30 times now, because a college professor friend of mine shows it to her students regularly, Gail Elliott. And every single time I see him do that scene, I come a little bit undone. That's Graham Greene. So love for Graham Greene, Yeah, Graham Greene. And I just want to say, what I remember watching it at all these times is that there were certain things that I begged Jonathan to let me do one more time. Even though we had no money, we had a low budget, we're running late, we're crazy bad, and I've done it enough times where I should have been able to do it the way I envisioned I could do it. I'd already had 4 or 5 or 6 cracks at it, and it should be done by then, but I could see the take that was yet to be realized hovering in the distance. And Jonathan allowed me to go that one last time to get those takes, like Buddy fighting with the cassette player in Filbert's car. Just those things where, you just know there's a better one out there, but you just haven't been able to get it yet. And if the man in charge will give you one more chance, you may be able to do it. And I will always be so deeply appreciative that you gave me one more chance at those ones when I asked you.
Okay, well, on that note, I have a little gift for you.
Oh.
Some weed.
Some weed.
It's legal now.
I've been carrying this around for the last 30 years. So it's time for you to have it.
Oh, yeah. Very nice.
You like Colbert, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now that just thoroughly wiped me out.
It's almost intact.
Okay, so is there like someone?
Got the rosette.
I want to thank Joanelle for putting this whole thing together. I mean, let's hear it for Joanelle. So, I had not remembered it was the 30th anniversary. I know Wes had. He'd be like looking forward to this moment forever.
I was saving it for the last 5 years. I can't wait for the 30th, because this film to me means so much on so many levels, especially, I want to just say, where we were 30 years ago and how far we've come today. I'm really proud and honored to say that, Wyss has become an Academy Motion Picture Arts and Sciences member. I have become an Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Graham Greene is the Academy of Motion. So there's some change. There's some kind of fantastic change happening, and I just want to push the envelope. And our board of directors, Red Nation Celebration Institute, we want to push the envelope in really making the statement that we are the new Hollywood. And because there's so many films right now being shot, and TV series, you know, Tantoon just got a lead, a regular, that's gonna be out in the fall.
Stumptown, CBS.
yeah.
Stumptown, Tantu Cardinal.
So there's some really groovy things happening, and I, you know, I believe, and I'd like to think that this little spiritual, beautiful film that George Harrison had the vision to do had something to do with that, and yeah.
Yeah, has anybody got any good questions? Yes, I can't see a thing. Oh, there we go, I can see now.
Oh, God.
Nobody's got a question at this time. Yeah, I see one up there, blondie. No, the nice red hair. You got red hair?
It all looks red.
Oh, waving, okay. That's your family.
Here's one in
Yes,
the middle.
sir. Go ahead.
Did you get a permit for the car crashers plaza?
Oh, God.
Ah.
Did you get a permit for the car crash plaza? Here you go.
Okay, so my understanding is that the entire platform of, I can't remember who the mayor of Santa Fe was after Debbie Jaramillo. But no, wait a minute, it must have been before Debbie Jaramillo.
Yeah, it was before.
But the entire platform of that mayoral candidate was his commitment to the arts, because he allowed, it was the first time ever anyone was allowed to shoot on the plaza, let alone do a stunt. So yes, we did get a permit, and he won the election, as I recall.
Good, that's a good question. Is anybody here from the IAIA who was in the powwow scene? Is anybody here from there?
Well, IAIA is here.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yes.
But you guys weren't in the powwow scene. Actually, it was the Indian school kids. That's where we shot it. But there was a lot of IAIA students in the extras in the powwow scene. But they really came out. You know, I still got the drum. I guess I should have given it to you tonight. I still have the drum.
60th anniversary.
60th anniversary. The 50th anniversary. Maybe.
Okay.
Any other good questions out there?
Yeah, at the top.
Yeah, okay, go for it.
So Gary, how involved or the panel, how involved was Mr. Harrison and why did he choose to make this film?
I know that.
I don't know, my favorite George Harrison story, I'm Jonathan probably got a better answer, but I know we had this producer outside of George who was the money man, I guess. His name was Dennis O'Brien.
Yeah.
He was kind of mean. He tried to cut a lot of things out of the script. I didn't get along with him very well, and I decided I'm not going to shoot any more movie, because he was taking things away I thought were really important, like Fort Robinson. He wanted to take the tokens away. He wanted to take, and one of the things he really hated was my bare naked ass, right? And Jonathan was smart enough, this is the story I've been telling for 30 years, he was smart enough to show the film to George, and when George saw my bare naked ass, he laughed. So I always say that George Harrison saved Filbert's ass.
Well, all of that is true, but there's just another piece to that, which is that, yeah, Dennis O'Brien, a nasty piece of work.
Wall Street guy.
Yeah, he was George's accountant when George was in the music business, and then he somehow inveigled his way into becoming George's co-executive producer. Anyway, so he sent a message to Jan Wieringer, who was the producer, saying, these are the cuts that you need to make, and make them. And I looked at them and I said, they don't make any sense to me, and no, I'm not going to make them. So he threatened her with firing unless she managed to get me to do it. And I thought, well, I'm not going to do it, but I'll just run out the clock and we'll just say, yeah, we're working on. And we figured eventually we would just, have the film done and nobody would ask any questions. But what happened was that out of the blue, we got a call from Dennis O'Brien to say that he wants to see the film before it is sent to the lab. So we rented a space, a room in West LA, and for him to come and see the film. Lo and behold, Jim Stewart, the editor, and I are sitting in the room, and George and his wife show up along with Dennis O'Brien. And George has got his lunch. He used to eat very healthy, and he had some bananas and some fruit and all this kind of stuff, and he's eating while he's watching the movie. And every time it comes to a cut that I was supposed to make, I'm just like cringing that I'm gonna get, fired. And we get after that, and again, George is like laughing away, and he's having a good time. And then when we came to Filbert's ass, for some weird reason, George takes the banana he's about to eat, and he turns around to me and he hands me the banana. So at that point I knew we were home free, right? So, I took the banana, and then at the end of the movie, George literally stood up and started, one-man clap, and turned to me and Jim and said, "Don't change a thing." And Dennis O'Brien walked out of the room, never to be seen again, until he was subsequently sued for $70 million that he cheated George out of. And never showed up in court, and George, God bless him, never got that piece of his money back. So that was the story. And then the coda to the story is I took it home, the banana, and I said to my wife, well, what are we going to do with this banana? And I said, we can't possibly throw this banana away. So it sort of sat on the table, and everybody bowed down to it and admired the banana. And then finally she had this great idea, which was to make some banana bread. So we put the banana in the banana bread, and invited some friends over, and we all ate the banana. That's the story.
Good questions. You guys are good. You got a couple more in you out there? Yeah.
Okay.
There you go. Go for it.
Yeah.
What was each of your favorite scenes to film?
Let's start with the girls.
Okay.
I think upon watching it now, again, I loved those scenes that we were shooting out in the plaza and stuff, right, coming out of jail. I like the scenes I was shooting with you. And I love the scene that I do with you. I don't know, I got reacquainted with them tonight. They brought back all the memories of filming them.
Well, having everybody here, right, 30 years later, and then watching it again, even though I've seen it many, many times over the 30 years, it brings up a lot of memories for me. And yes, I love that scene. I remember that scene. I remember how I felt during that scene. And I love the scene of the breakout.
Yes.
That was like, yeah, that was wonderful. I remember that it was really freezing, and I love the cinematographer. He was so gentle with me and very kind to me, because if you notice, I'm wearing what do you call it? Stockings, because it was so cold. And Jonathan, I don't know if it was you, but I remember him coming up to me and he said, "I need to get this one shot. And if you could just hold, if without wearing shoes, if you could just hold out for this one shot." And I did. I got frostbite, but no, just teasing. Yeah. But it was so worth it. It was a very precious scene. And then my favorite scene is, and I always say this, is when Filbert gives the chocolate to the spirits.
My favorite scene is at the picnic bench, hard against the smokestacks in the back, when Gary's telling the story of Tio, the trickster, and Buddy is going on about, doesn't matter, it's not going to help. And during the shooting of The Master, I was listening to the story a little bit when he was telling it, and then you know, Buddy like disrespected it. And I was looking away when I did that. And then I turn and look at Gary, and there's tears rolling down his face. And that, in a nutshell, is the essence of why I think this movie is so great. And I revere that scene.
Of course, my favorite scene is the fa la la. No, seriously. It's not, but I did love those lines.
You killed it.
But no, after having done the film and it went around, everybody saw it. It turned out my favorite scene was actually when Filbert comes rolling down the. And I was watching it with my mother, and she said, "Oh, he's so cute." And then he got to his bare ass. She had go. But he's so cute. So I kind of got jealous of that. So for the longest time, I wasn't friendly toward Gary about that. But no, the rolling down the mountain was my favorite scene.
Yeah, I think my favorite scene to shoot was the scene in the river, because it was one of those classic kind of director problems. I had no idea how I was going to shoot it. And the night before, I just stayed up really late trying to figure out a way to do this. Not just the practicalities of how do you get a camera in the water, but just how do you bring these guys together in this absolutely critical moment? Because this is the moment in which Buddy, in a somewhat hesitant way, begins to accept the knowledge and the world that Filbert represents. So how to do that was, for me, like a real interesting challenge, and I loved the way it came out.
You know, thinking back, I guess it was Christmas Eve or night before Christmas, or it was in the 20s anyway, December 20th or so. We were done in a couple days, and one of the last things we did was race in the car, in actual protector, the war pony. Was Toimichi, obviously, the director, Jonathan A., myself, and
That was it. That was it.
Wasn't there a woman? I thought Jean was there. Was
No, it was the four of us.
It was a grip.
A grip.
Yeah.
John, maybe,
Yeah.
Zampano.
Yeah.
And we raced for 2 hours to get to catch, you know, the 4 presidents and to catch Pine Ridge at dusk. And it was that, and then the whole, to me, that scene when we go up to the 2 that are moving to condo land, Margot Kane and Wayne Waterman.
They were so great.
That scene there when he's introducing me and these guys are all AIM, and you know, in 1973 when the Wounded Knee happened, I actually lied to my education counselor and said I wanted to be in the FBI because I could get a year at Syracuse University. I had to tell him I had to study something in the States I couldn't get in Canada. So I told him I wanted to be an FBI agent in '73, you know. So that handshake, you know, where it's awkward, and I still do that. I still do that 20 times with people trying to find our connection as Indians, you know. So that's probably one of my favorite scenes, awkwardly enough.
Yeah.
And you say, no, but I remember hearing about it.
Yeah. For sure. Any other good questions out there? Yes, sir.
So Gary and A, well, first of all, goddamn, what a good effing movie. That is fantastic.
Thank you, Aaron.
But for A and Gary, so your point, you mentioned you protect your war pony is a car, but a critical component to the movie. guy, did you build a relationship with the car? Did you love that car?
Oh, no. I tried to get the car, but these guys blew the engine 40 miles out of town, and I did ADR, like we said, low budget, for the car. I did my additional dialogue replacement for the film, for the car. But the car was 60 miles or 50 miles outside of LA. I was broke, but I was prepared to drive that car home with a cardboard Montana plate and put it at the Woodland Cultural Center, the res I'm from, is the cultural facility. But I had and then of course there was 2 66 Wildcats that we trashed for the film. One is, I don't know if we retrieved it from Nambay nearby, but that's where it blew up and burnt.
It's a big tourist attraction out there now.
Oh, is it? If you want to go see it, it's still there. Detectors down at the base of Nambay Falls. There you go.
What about Aiden? Because you were in the car a lot too. Did you build a relationship with the car like Gary did there? Or?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, the minute you see the car, you go, oh. I mean, the moment you see the car, there's this power arises in the film. I mean, when you see it through the window, you go through that dirty window, and then there it is. You go, oh. You know that this is going to be a different kind of movie. Where yeah, I loved it. And and then that day when we went to catch. Was that George Washington's profile that we caught? Yeah. And then to get to Pine Ridge by dusk, Gary, racing is the right word. I mean, we didn't have a reasonable amount of time to get there. It was a long drive, and Gary was confident that he could drive that car that fast, that far, so we could get that shot. And the same thing with the thing in the river. We did that in one take. Obviously, we were butt cold, but I remember, Gary went out there and set up in a certain place in the river, and I was so grateful as I went to get near him that the place that was left for me was a little bit more dug out than the place he had perched on, because I knew that visually that would be golden. That he would be just that much bigger than Buddy, and it would just that was just grace. It was total grace, just good luck. We had a lot of good luck.
I wanted to ask you, Jonathan, put you on the spot. What happened to all the outtakes? Do you know where they are?
Everything was sent to Handmade Films.
Okay, because I'm going to try to.
Please do.
Yeah.
The good news is that the film was acquired by Criterion, the Criterion Collection, and they have now started streaming their own. They were going through Filmstruck, and Filmstruck folded.
Right.
But now, if you download the Criterion Collection, you can get. Apart from Pow Wow Highway, you can get some of the greatest films ever made.
Right.
So that's how you can. Anybody who needs to see it again.
You know how I got to getting this film was I called and I got a hold of the distribution company, and I got a hold of Warner Brothers and Handmade, and I said, we really need to do something, and we want to go on tour. So just to let FYI, we're traveling with this film on reservations, on rancherias. There's so many of our tribes that are booking this right now, and this whole year, and we're even booked into next year. And they go, it's not going to be the 30th, but I said, that's okay. We need to keep screening this. And I'm really grateful to Janus Films, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong.
That's right, Janus.
Janus Films and Handmade for giving Red Nation the exclusive rights to do this tour and to travel with it until the tour ends.
Cool.
And I want to invite and make sure, because that everyone up here is always invited to every single screening, and promise I'll be better at that.
Right.
What?
time we get to see one.
We got one from Betty right here.
Yeah. Yes, we're going to Lame Deer in January. We're going to be running with the youth and then having a screening and a dinner and a panel. We're just securing a lot of the dates. We just announced that like about 6 weeks ago. And it was when we were at our board. I want to acknowledge our board members, our Red Nation Celebration Institute board members. Pearl Means is here this evening. And yeah. And A. Martinez is on our board. But at our last board meeting, we have 4 meetings a year, and we were at our board meeting, and Pearl is the one that said, let's do this 30th anniversary Powwow Highway tour. And so we just got on it. So it's because of you, Pearl.
Yeah.
I don't really have a question, but I just want to thank all of you for making this film and for those who took the chance in investing. As a young Native woman growing up, this was one of those films that was a staple, not in just my home, but everybody's home seemed to always have it playing. And I think it really set really good, positive representation. As we say, representation matters. We don't see Native people in film or in any of the art. So this was really inspiring for me. And as an artist now, this film and other films that you have all done have encouraged me to go that way. And I think that things like this were really important now seeing, Indigenous people in DC. So I think that it's really underestimated the power of what you've all done. So thank you.
Thank you, Hillary. And I want to say, Buddy's anger notwithstanding, the thing that was driving him so nuts, the issue that was driving him is still the issue of the day. Yes. It's remarkable how effortlessly you could lift some of those lines and be describing, what's going on all over the place right this minute. And so, I know a lot of us in this room are committed to trying to get to a better way. But I just want to reiterate to everybody, whenever you have a chance to choose to stand up in support of Indigenous people, rural people, people that have the bad luck to be on the front lines of the most difficult issues pertaining to the power of the carbon lobby and other energy forms, the way the people that had suffered the most, that have the toxins in their backyard and have to deal with the worst of the fallout and are trying to make a noise about it, they're studiously ignored in the mainstream, and they need the support of people through the grassroots. So anytime you see something going by on your social media feeds and you think, well, here's one of those things, right? It's really a good idea to take a moment and go, I'm going to look at this and maybe raise my voice and share and be part of trying to make it better. Because it really is true that it's so important right now that it's scary. So it's time to any chance you get, I want to say, take advantage of any chance you get to be a part of standing up to it.
Well, I do want to acknowledge, because without them, we wouldn't be here with this 30th anniversary. So it's that time where I want to really acknowledge some of our longest standing sponsors, and that's Hotel Santa Fe, and their whole staff is just their family, and the Picaries Pueblo, they've been sponsoring us since 2004. And the Inn of the Mountain Gods, the Muscalero Apaches, and La Fonda for hosting us with our press conference, and Plaza Cafe, who have been our longest sponsor, have continuously fed us every time we're here. USC, our new sponsor, they have been our sponsor, this is our 3rd year, And next year, we will, for our 25th anniversary, we'll be announcing some really exciting news publicly. The Novo Foundation, that is Warren Buffett's sons, Warren Buffett's family's organizations. And then Marika, who dressed me, that's her designs, Office Depot, and then our television network, Red Nation Television Network, which all of this stuff will be streamed on, and then Harmon, who graciously took my call and made this happen to film it. So I really want to acknowledge those generous hearts that, because without them, we wouldn't be able to do Red Nation Film Festival. So I really owe a lot to them. Is that it? Okay, so I want to thank all of you, Gary and Jonathan and Wes and Amanda and myself and A. Oh, and I want to acknowledge our photographer, Nancy. Nancy, yes. Oh my God.
Thank you all. Thank you all for coming.
Yes.